Good day, sir. By the way, I am Danielle and Garanzo from Section Cream 1B, and now I will gonna represent my reflection about Philippine Island history. So, Philippine Island history, there are many legends that might surrounding the history of Philippine Islands. One of the most well known of which is the belief that our country as we know it was formed as a result of dispute between two giants named Angalo and Angarab was fight lasted a few days and resulted in the islands that make up the country. The scientific explanation, on the other hand, will date back to some 60 million years ago when the first Philippine island appeared. Mindoro and Palawan are the names of these two islands. The islands of Luzon and Mindanao, which originated as a result of complicated tectonic plates collisions as a result of geological tectonic plate evolution, mostly due to the Pacific and Australian plates moving inward to the Asian plate where the next to appear. The Philippine mobile plate was given it to after that. Now, the Indian plate clashed with the Asian plate 30 million years after the island first appeared, generating a tear that culminated in the development of West Philippine Sea, which pushed the isolated Mindoro and Palawan Islands closer closer to the newly created Luzon and Mindanao Islands. The Pacific, Australian, and Indian plate continued to press inward toward Asia, forming the Philippines' 7,641 islands. And now, Mr. Antonio de Morga is the author of the paper. He claimed that the early occupants of the Philippine preceding islands were black-skinned when unusually curls of the resembled wolves here and well diminutive in stature, with well-defined muscles and a trained physique. They are barbarians with limited capabilities, he claimed, although in the past when technology was not yet a thing. His viewpoint might have been valid. People aren't as educated as they were back then, but the way he labeled them as barbarians is inappropriate. Respecting them and not rashly label them as such would be very welcomed. Compassion for them doesn't cost anything and doesn't take much effort, so it won't be a hassle to exhibit. After all, learning about our ancestors' lives allows us to develop a better understanding of the obstacles they encountered, as well as greater love and compassion of their shortcomings and errors. This compassion can readily be transferred to our interaction with the living, both within and outside of our families. The Philippine Foundation is made up of these people because they were the ones who started it all. We know everything we know today. Our forefathers began practicing collaboration of bayanihan, as we call it now. We Filipinos are recognized for our generosity, passion, and hospitality as well as our capacity to befriend nearly anyone, which led to develop of the bayanihan, which is still demonstrated the practice today. They also learn how to plant, harvest, make tools to help them survive and build houses. Our our forefathers or natives created their own traditional songs and dances which have affected and inspired current and future music and dances in the new millennium, which the fear of the of the unknown and question of their existence began growing and spreading all throughout. Beliefs in gods and deities were formed. Some believe that there is an unknown powerful being that created us. Others refuse to believe in anything, while They are also those who believe that the earth or the place they occupy is the back of the giant and that we are as small as dust residing in their body. Every time the giant scratch as a part of our body, every time the giant scratch as a part of their body, the island shakes, which explains earthquakes. This legend, along with many others, should be remembered and taken seriously. However, this does not negate the need of scientific explanation. The Philippine island origins can take many different shapes which might change from generation to generation. The important is that appreciate each and every one of them because they are a part of our identity. Ang taong di marunong lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan, according to a well-known Filipino adage. This suggests that someone who does not know how to look back from for where they came from will not arrive at their destination. And now, we will proceed the third reflection of mine, which is the manunggul jar. So as you can see, makikita mo dito sa larawan ang sample kung ano ang manunggul jar. We Filipinos, in my opinion, are naturally inventive and innovative. Many people can speak to the fact that Filipinos are skilled in a variety of fields. The rise of numerous potential firms in the country demonstrates this. Despite the numerous challenges we face, Filipinos are recognized for our cheerful view on life. One example for this approach is that we have skills that enable us to boldly address our own difficulties. The manunggul jar is an example of our inventiveness. Kagaya ng pinapakita ko sa inyo kanina nung larawan na yun ang example ng ating inventiveness. So I admire how it's so constructed of natural resources and how our forefathers were able to create a sophisticated yet durable material with the tools and knowledge they had at the time. It's actually extremely fascinating to me. The manunggul jar was made by one of our forefathers who was an expert of potter. He was Renaissance artist. When he built the jar, the people who saw it and liked it thought of it as an artifact that conveyed the importance of bodies of water such as oceans, lakes, and rivers as supplies of water are a way to travel from one area to another and exchange goods with neighboring tribes. So yung jar pala yun, ginagamit pala yun para lalagyan ng tubig kung sila man ang pupunta sa malayong lugar ay meron silang tubig na maiinom. So ilalagay nila doon. So many people believe that everyone is capable of creativity because a creative mind way envisage and aspiration and ideals for a life that is better than what is currently available of doubt where there will be setbacks and disappointments along the way to success, but creative brains are unafraid to take a risk. Their minds speak and build their fellow men with an eager and respectful attitude. A creative mind is also imaginative and it is capable of discovering a wide range of things. It makes use its knowledge to come up with concepts are not just innovative but also feasible. It takes chances and invests in turning ideas into reality in developing tools, equipment, and other things that improve humanity equality of life. So we are without a doubt a creative bunch. This is visible in the numerous fields in which we engage, resulting in increased production and innovation. As well as concerned citizen, we must unleash and improve the Filipinos' creative spirit. It should be used as a tool to help the country recover. Let us thus make us of this resource to assist ourselves and our country in resolving economic issues. To be truly creative, though, one must be laser focused in a certain personal and national objectives. There will be no need to use one's creative abilities in this not present. To put it another way, we require the type of motivation that will push us to do what we need to do. So, dahil sa motivation, magagawa natin yung gusto natin. It inspires us to do things that we need to do. In order to come up with unique products or ideas, we can improvise and use scraps and wasted materials, but it is our inventiveness that is most accountable for our optimisms. Creativity is defined as the ability to view things in new and unexpected ways, allowing an individual to come up with ideas that no one else has thought of. The objective is to turn creative potential into productivity, which lead to distinct the original discoveries, initiative, and products. So, ayun nga. Yun ang nasa manunggulchar. Hi, good day. Andito naman po ako upang ibahagi ang naudlot na usapan patungkol sa aking reflection sa dalago na copper plate. So, dito, maibabahagi po akong larawan, isang example po ng copper plate. Yan. The Laguna Copper Plate. Laguna is a province in the Philippines located immediately southeast of Manila in Laguna de Bay. The Laguna Copper Plate was discovered here. A sheet of metal with handwriting on it was discovered. It is thought to be the first known example of writing literature in the Philippines. The inscription was crafted from copper, with the presses each sheet directly onto the plate, and writings on the sheet were written in an ancient language known as Old Malay, which had a number of borrowed terms from Sanskrit and a few non-Malay terminology that required experts like Anton Posma and Dr. Johann de Caspares to interpret the illustrate. The sheet served as a reminder it was represented throughout significant historical events such as the Saqqara era's year 822, the Vaisak month, and the birthday of the waning moon, despite its similarity in Javanese documents. The experts decided that it exhibited distinguished characteristics that indicated otherwise. This led the expert to the conclusion that it did not originated in Java. There were other arguments that back up and confirm their suspicions. So, life is built on the foundation of literature. It focuses on a variety of issues ranging from human tragedies to stories about the ever-popular hunt for love. While the text is technically printed in the words, it comes to life in the mind's imagination and ability to comprehend the text's intricacy or simplicity. These lessons give me the ability to see through the eyes of the others, including inanimate objects, and thus it became a looking glass. I peered through it, seeing the world through the eyes of others. It was a trip documented in words and propelled by the imagination. Finally, literature has opened a door for me. It educated me on the past and how things were done in the past. How different the forms of languages and letters, as well as communication methods, were back to compared to now. So, ayun po. As I grew older, I began to read a wider range of novels and poetry. Others compelled me to learn as the result of curiosity and interest. As a result, understanding one of the first works of literature is fascinating. I can stop myself from being reading and knowing more about this Laguna copper plate since it's like uncovering and uncovering the origins of magnificent phenomenon known as literature. There aren't me there aren't many antiques in our country, which is why when the copper plate was discovered, it was regarded as the treasure and depicted the past and demonstrate that the art of literature had a long story. With the thing serving as a reminder, we should all cherish these works of literature as well as any antique artifacts we should all think. So dito po sa copper plate, binibigyan po nito na binibigyan po ito ng halaga kasi itong copper plate po, kinakailangan po natin ito i-keep kasi bahagi na po ito sa isang ating art of literature. Ayun po. Duties of the Katipunan. In 1892, Filipinos who wanted to overthrow Spanish rule established a secretive society based on Masonic rites and principles to plan armed and resistance and terrorist assassinations. It functioned as de facto Philippine government with a president cabinet when Andres Bonifacio became the organization leader. It became far more aggressive. The Philippine Revolution began with the Grito de Balintawak. Filipinos tore up their tax and citizenship papers and began fighting across the islands in Luzon. Emilio Jacinto led Katipunan troops and numerous cave battles in which both sides suffered significant losses. We must cherish and comprehend the significance of our freedom and rights. It was critical for Filipinos at the time to remember our rights and to realize both how we should be treated and how we should treat others. Understanding and respecting rights allow us to tolerate our differences, empowers people to confront discrimination, enhance relationships, and make the most of their lives. In our increasingly diverse and difficult world, it is more crucial than ever to foster these positive and open-minded attitudes in everyone. Learning where they stood and why we should fight for them is critical. It is the right Katipunero's main motivator. Our rights and freedoms, which have been tempered with the ignored, and critical for the general development of our country as well as the health of our brains and emotions on a personal level. The right to life safeguards us. It assured that no one could kill us, giving you peace of mind, and invaders were unconcerned about this. I'm furious at the I- I'm furious at the prospect of them taking away our freedom and movement, and I can't help but I feel sorry for those who have had to go through it. If the Russians succeed in removing the people mobilization, it will be similar to what is happening in Ukraine right now. People will be unable to go to and reside in any states of their choosing people. China and North Korea are another example of this, despite the fact that they were ruled by their own governments. They still don't have any freedom under their president's regime. Similar to martial law, the president has the authority to say that happens without need of others' confirmation or permissions. They are unconcerned about their rights and voice. Next is Act of Declaration of Philippine Independence. The Philippines was not always a free country. We've been raided on several occasions. Countries from all over the world wanted to lay claim to us, claiming we were bigger, stronger, and more capable. This has happened before when Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, and a few others struggled for our right to independence. Dr. Jose Rizal, our present national hero, also took part in the Katipunan's inductions of new members. Viva la Independencia Filipina, wrote Bonifacio. Long live Philippine independence on the cave walls to indicate their secret society objects. Rizal authored novels about how unjust and situation was. They all put their lives in the line in order for me to have the freedom that I do. Above all, the person's name died valiantly for the causes of our country. The cry of Pugad Lawin, which signaled the start of the Philippine Revolution, was led by Bonifacio. In protest against Spanish conquest, members of the Katipunan led by Bonifacio tore their community tax certificates. Rizal's famous remarks was Punitin and Sidula, o Punitin ang Sidula, and his famous artwork were titled El Filibusterismo, which translates no reign of greed and no limitangere, which means touch me not. Personally, believe they made the correct decision. It is critical to have freedom. Independence is not a terrible thing, and being independent can mean being able to do the things we want and enjoy while also keeping our boundaries in mind. After all, too much in anything is never good. Being free is a requirement not only for our country but also for an individual. Being independent has various advantages, including having healthier, longer-lasting connection with those around you. Being self-sufficient allowed me to rely primarily on myself while also allowing me to explore and test my abilities. I'm more likely to listen. My daily stress if I act as my own emotional crutch. Counselor and counsel, relying on the others can be risky, and I discovered that if I can handle issues on my own, I'm less concerned when difficult scenarios arise. Although I maintain contact with friends and family, and occasionally I allow them to assist me, it is crucial to remember that social support is still important and that leaning on my inner circle is beneficial. In actuality, being more self-sufficient just meant that I could deal with things more efficiently. I am an independent person who has learned to believe in myself, which has been really beneficial to my self-esteem. Believing in my own thoughts, decisions, and actions provided me a confidence boost unlike any other. I will never be able to be who am I if I was constantly concerned about what other people thought of me. I believe in myself and knew that I would always achieve. It also aided in my self-motivation. There is nothing like being self-motivated to make you feel good. But don't get me wrong, we all have days when getting out of bed is a struggle, but having a self-discipline to get up and do something productive in is fantastic. I did all for myself. If I wanted to reach a goal, I am very primarily sources and inspiration of making to eat and the end of week without collapsing. Yes. Ginagawa ko po talaga yung mga bagay na alam kong kaya ko po at never po ako nag-collapse sa mga bagay, sa mga mabibigat na bagay na ginagawa ko. Di po ako nagko-collapse. Pag naka-feel po ako na parang nanghihina na po, pero napapahinga po ako, pero never pa po ako nag-collapse. Yun lang po. Every victory made me feel good about myself. I had lost my way because I was reliant on the others or focused too much on everyone else rather than myself. I participated in my activities and refused to take trust from others. Being self-sufficient allowed me to leave my family and friends at home and seek out what made me happy. It could be anything as simple as learning a new skills, assisting others, or getting some exercise, allowing myself the opportunity to discover it on my own. Whatever it is will significantly increase my self-system. So, dito po, may kunti ba akong ibabagi sa inyo. Isa pa akong student and athlete. Yung sports ko po is sipak takraw. So, hindi po siya madali kasi pinagsabay ko po yung pag-aaral at saka yung pagtitraining upang makuha ko po yung goal na maging part ng palarong pambansa, which is nakuha ko na yun since 2016 to 2021 kasi nag-stop po yung 2021 kasi dumating yung pandemic, which is ang COVID-19. Yun po. So, ngayon, college na po ako. Ang course ko po is Bachelor of Science in Criminology. So, nag-advance po ako ROTC. Yun po. Yung pag-a-advance ko po, hindi po siya madali kasi pumupunta talaga po kami na doon sa CDC ng madaling araw. So, gumagawa po kami doon ng exercise and some things na maka-help po sa aming katawan, and talaga po marami po talagang benefit na makukuha namin doon. So yun. It all comes down to extending my horizons, to becoming self-sufficient. It's all too easy for me to forget to take time for myself in my hectic life. And we all don't practice self-care nearly as much as we should. I don't lose out opportunities or life experiences by intentionally widening my horizons, results in less bitterness and more fulfillment. Life has so much to offer, and no matter how hectic your life is or how many people rely on you, making sure your says life with both hands is critical to your future happiness. So, kung ano po talaga yung gusto nyo sa buhay, sundin nyo po kung alam nyo ito po yung nakakabuti sa inyo. Wag yung mga pinagsasabi ng ibang tao, kesyo din nyo daw po nyo kaya, huwag nyo po yung intindihin, huwag nyo pakinggan. Pakinggan nyo po kung ano yung gusto ng inyong damdamin. So, balang araw makakamit din natin yung pagiging police officer someday. So, ipagpatuloy po natin ang 16th and 18th century Philippines. Our country was diverse and rich in cultures and traditions during the 16th and 18th centuries. These ideas were used by our forefathers to express respect, communicate, and commemorate events. Each community's culture and tradition has its unique significance. Our ancient literature includes folk tales, old dramas, and short stories. It also portrays our rituals and traditions on a daily basis. We demonstrate a great amount of tradition before falling into the hands of invaders like the Spaniards, which may still be observed now. Traditions and culture are still taught in school and are held in high regard till the end of the time. Physical artifacts and intangible traits of our ancestors' different tribes are inherited from generation to generation, preserved in the present and bestowed for the benefit of future generations in our country. Cultural legacy. I believe it is critical to understand the significance of our culture and tradition, but these objects, in whatever form they take, are part of its history, and protecting that heritage needs active work on our part. They are significant not just because of their current or potential economic value, but also because they evoke a specific emotions in us or make us feel as if we are a part of something, a country, a culture, a way of life. Sharing your cultural legacy, whatever it may be, is the best way to maintain it. The significance of conserving a nation's heritage traditions embrace a nation's cultural heritage and natural history have a high value and are unique. It is a persona that may be shared with the rest of the world. Our culture and traditions support our identity as a people by providing a complete framework for the preservation of cultural heritage such as cultural sites, historic buildings, monuments, shrines, and landmarks with cultural and historical significance. Culture and its heritage reflect the divine values, belief, and aspiration defining the national identity of a people. It is critical to preserve our cultural legacy in order to maintain our identity as a part of people. As a part, ay, maintain our identity as a people. Yun. The value of intangible cultural legacy is not in the cultural manifestation itself, but in the wealth of information and skills passed down from generation to generation. The social and economic benefit of knowledge transfer is crucial both from minority and mainstream social groups with a state. It is equally vital for developing and developed countries. Recognizing international qualification of culturally varied professionals and immigrant receiving nations assist disparate communities in protecting, appreciating, and accommodating their cultures. So, recognizing this credential also benefits host societies in broadening their perspective on service, cultural offers, and business opportunities. It is especially crucial when smaller communities are attempting to attract migrants but lack diverse, diversified cultural resources to attract and retain them. Recognizing an international qualification aims to not only integrate newcomers but also to capitalize on their cultural and expertise. So yun. Intercultural communication and mutual respects for other ways of life are aided by an understanding of diverse communities, intangible cultural heritage. To put it another way, safeguarding focuses on the processes involved in conveying or sharing the intangible cultural property from generation to generation rather than the production of physical manifestations such as dance, performance, a song, a musical instrument, or a trade. Education is used to preserve cultural and heritage. So in today's global culture, cultural heritage appreciation should be expressed through an integrated education method. Education should be supported as a means of ensuring the long-term preservation of cultural assets. It is a method of preserving both tangible and intangible cultural heritage.